Hello, dear attendees. Great to see that we have almost 50 people at the start. We're waiting for a few more minutes as usually, and then we will start with today's webinar. Yes, so it seems we have enough of us here today. So again, hello to all of you. To those of you who aren't familiar with our company initially, my name is Ivan. I'm an Osint analyst at Social Links. Today we're going to present one of, well, it could be said it's our product update. And it's also a part of the functionality of one of the visualization and analytics platforms that our solution is present on, namely Maltego Machines. So my colleague has sent a link to the webinar, to the original documentation by Mr. Rolf Temming, who built Multigo initially many years ago with his team. That covers the use of the Maltego scripting language. Yes, this recording will be accessible to those of you who would like to ascertain that. Now, the purpose of the Multigo scripting language is to automate repetitive scenarios of gathering data. So that's just even more than open source intelligence automation, something that can be said about any industrial tool, including ours. But the implementation of certain sequential scenarios of the queries. Those who would be interested, the users of Multigo, and especially I hope users of social links within Multigo, can access this and inspect themselves in more detail after the webinar. The basic concepts are outlined here. So there can be a pipeline of transforms and certain filters that are executed. And it can be called a macro. And a machine is a combination of pipelines, triggers, and feeders, as stated here. The language itself is not really complex, and it's an in-software language, but it is possible to make scenarios very custom and very tailored to something that the user frequently does. Now, we will explore this on several scenarios, and the first one will be email addresses. So I think we can open the editor to see how exactly that would look in implementation. The machine that we're going to use now is structured like this. So first, we enrich the email. So see what social media accounts are attached to it. And here we are basing this just on social links transforms. So as you can see, Flickr, Foursquare, Gravatar, Skype, LinkedIn, post-Soviet mailing services, MySpace, SLIC, a Google ID if it's a Gmail, with subsequent extractions of the reviews from the ID. And in general, also checking for the existence of accounts in various other platforms and extracting data such as locations and names and usernames and social media IDs from the resulting output. We will run it first on the email that you can see on top. So for that, we need to open machines in the subsection and choose the one that we want to use. All of this is now accessible within the standard license of social links for Multigo. Yes, Maciej, thank you too for coming. Great to see you. What we see so far is the extraction of the handle, the verification of a Flickr account existing, some ISC records, and some IP addresses also coming from ISC, as well as the emails with similar passwords that we can see here in a separate collection. Now, the second order of the transform is running with the extraction of data from the property fields. Now we're going to do the same on the second one. As we can see, it has some intersection with the emails with similar passwords. It also has a number of accounts in some online platforms registered with it. And it has an account within Flickr that we can, within Gravatar that we can see. Transforms are still running, so there are a lot of them, as you have seen in the code editor. We've now also extracted a Google ID and got the reviews from it. Now, something that we didn't include in the code was the extraction of properties from the reviews, which we'll do now. Those are timestamps and GPS coordinates. Now, from the coordinates, we'll utilize a standard location transform, giving us a city or a country. Two of those, one from SLISC and one from the review, give us all Toronto, Canada. And we can merge some of those entities on the graph for logical coherence. So based on this, there are a number of things that we can assume and that we can be sure about in regards to this specific user. So that's how it works for emails. Now we can go to our next scenario, one of the common ones with a phone, which will work by a very similar logic to what we did now with the email. So we're gathering social media accounts, presence in platforms, social links records, all the records available for us, and some other stuff such as the Truecaller ID. Now we see Skype, we see a Facebook account, the fact of a profile existing within Twitter, a company name, a name from Truecaller, the operator and the location with the country code, and whether this person has been designated as a spammer. The other transforms haven't found anything additional so far. And here we have Facebook as an input and as one of the potentially richest sources of information. So the next interesting thing would be to build a content-based social graph of the individual. That's something that we quite frequently talk about. What I mean when I say content-based social graph is not just the friends of the user, not just the people they are following, but rather a weighted map with where we can see the people that are potentially more important and more interconnected within their network. We will show the code for this one after it finishes. So what it does is extract the general details about the profile, which we can see. Stated relatives, co-workers, people person has studied with, and also the content that they have been tagged in within Facebook. So which is a metric of interaction. The posts, the photos, and the videos. Then subsequently, from those content pieces, the comments, the commenting and reacting Facebook accounts. I see that there is a question so far, and we will answer it after the overall functional demonstration part. And yes, it is a good question, of course. Once we get the full picture here, it's not entirely full because we have limited time for the webinar and a higher limit. And it's also possible to set that limit in the slider parameter in the code editor. Here it's only 12 maximal output entities, so not fully representative. But based on this, we can apply some visual filters within Multigo and see which entities are the more important within the network. The logic of importance within this specific macro is that they have a connection to more pieces of content related to the person of interest than other ones. And this is how it looks in the editor. And that's why it ran for such a long time. Something which we didn't show in the context of this file is the further capabilities to deepen what we have, which means getting the offer, reactions, and replies for all of the comments. And as we always state, the same logic of working with this kind of data applies to every social media platform which our solution has in-depth access to. And this can potentially give a deeper level of understanding of the network of the person of interest within the scope of the social media platform on which we are doing this, in this example, Facebook, and the assessment of the importance of those people and those entities in their respective relations. I think there is one question that it makes sense to answer right now, and that is, what does this tell us about the person of interest, and how does one generate the report? One thing that this tells us is that within the social group and the persons of second and our initial input, there are people who tag the person in the content and interact with the content that they're related to more frequently than other ones. And that may constitute a deeper level of connection in a professional or personal context that they have to the person that we are running the research on. And yes, now we can go to our next example, which will cover searches in corporate sources. What this will do is run queries into the 5 registries that are accessible through SL Pro, as well as Google and sanction lists. Well, it's one of those 5 sources. Then, if there is a record that is present within either company's house, open corporates, offshore leagues, OCCRP, or Sanctions Explorer, it will do the next degree of deepening and extract all of the officers that are affiliated with the corporate entity in question, according to the source, as well as the related physical addresses, according to the source as well. What we found here so far are some mentions in Twitter in regards to the company from the user Luke Codden, some URLs from the search engine query, references in the OCCRP Aleph. Those are seemingly false positives because they are a result of the Sanctions Explorer query, and this company is not in any of those related lists. And an entity within company's house from which we see the individuals related to it and physical addresses. And from those individuals, we subsequently go to other companies that they are affiliated with. The same logic is applicable to the other corporate registries accessible for SL Pro. And there is a question about the ChatGPT integration. We already have transforms that run queries into ChatGPT, and those are related to extracting the key topics and summaries, as well as detecting object-related sentiment from text content and specifically social media content. And that will be exactly the subject of this file. So within the Facebook example, we built a social graph. Here, we're going to extract the user content and then evaluate the sentiment of that content using this machine here, which can be pretty good for example, doing quick background checks on people. Or conducting research on individuals that are involved in misinformation and disinformation campaigns related to certain organizational entities or to a certain socio-political phenomenon or something like online harassment. This machine was offered by my colleague with the username Soksoy, who is currently the head of the Social Link Center of Excellence. And the logic here is reflected in the code. So first, we ask for the user tweets, and then we run ChatGPT sentiment on those. And if it is positive, then that will be deleted. If it's neutral, it will also be deleted. And then from some of the resulting entities, we will detect not just the general sentiment evaluation, but sentiment related to specific objects within the set. This may run for quite some time. We've shown the logic of it now. We can go to the pre-made output. And another interesting thing here is that we have applied some viewlets, such as sorting them by the diversity of descent, which is usually very good for conducting research on social networks, the in-depth analysis of social networks. There are other default ones, but here the user can build something more specific. And it's doable in the viewlet editor. So that's another thing that our colleague has made. And this is the next level of customization of the capabilities of the Maltego software in the context of social links. And here, this has some accent on Singapore. We were building it as an example for the use cases of that territory. So this is the general negative sentiment. And this one is more object specific. Now, my colleague is going to launch a poll, which we highly encourage our users to answer to. There will be several questions. What do you think of the webinar so far? Was it useful for you? Are you currently planning to implement Osint solutions at your organization? And would you like to have a tailored demo of SL Pro to see how it can help you specifically? And whether you would like a free onboarding session. Now, I think we can also start answering some questions and perhaps do some more examples on other machines and on Osint capabilities in general. So there was one which I initially skipped. How does GPS tracking work, from Mr. Bruno? A very good question indeed. This isn't exactly GPS tracking. We're not currently specialized in that kind of stuff. It is rather the extraction of coordinates from the venues which have been reviewed by a certain user within their Google profile. An example of which we will show now. Meanwhile, is it possible to collect data related to a private account? It is. In a certain sense of a word. So we wouldn't get as much data from a private account as we would from an open one. And there are still some identifiers and some properties of the supposed private accounts, such as the screen name, the username, the social media. But we can pivot further into other sources. And it's quite often that a user has an account closed on one platform and open on some other ones. Yes, this takes some time, so we'll do this on the example that we explored at the beginning of the webinar. So there is the Google ID derived from the email. It contains the alias and the screen name. And here the user has reviews to 2 places, which we can see here. 24-hour classic flowers. And there is a text here reviewing it negative in this context. There is the address, and there are the GPS coordinates of that place and some related keywords and the timestamp and the dry cleaning joint with a more positive review. Now, we're not extracting the exact geolocation of the person in question in real time. We are getting the coordinates of the places that they have most likely been to, assuming they have left a review after that, and converting those to a more broad location. In one case here, this is this place within Canada, and in another one that was Old Toronto. And we also extract the exact timestamps, and in a real world research that could potentially be correlated with other things such as potential social media activity. How do you find some insights to detect that a particular person has some illegal issues? There is an example related to a specific region. So here we can see a Twitter network and a more filtered version of the Twitter network. There are several accounts that are bookmarked red, which are the input ones. Then from those, we have extracted the users that they are following, and there has been an intersection in free users with all three of the initial ones. Those second degree people are marked green. Then we did the same on the second degree users, and subsequently extracted the general details, which is, in case with Twitter, a stated location from all of the profiles, and selected the leaf entities, those that are dead end and have less than 2 incoming connections and no outgoing ones, and deleted them to filter the selection. Now, it's the reason I'm showing this example specifically is because you specified the country Mexico. So here we see people that have Culiacan, Sinaloa stated as their location within Twitter. And there's a total amount of 17 incoming links. So 17 users having specified their location to be Culiacan. Sinaloa, generally, 7. 11, California, 9, Mexico City, and also several for Phoenix, Arizona, USA, and General, Arizona, USA. And those come mostly from the network part of the third individual because, well, at least here, they're stating to be based in Phoenix, Arizona. And this here is even more filtered and more deepened, where we also have the third and fourth degree of relevance accounts bookmarked other different colors. And those are, for example, the accounts with the largest amounts of incoming links. The logic here is that they mostly are those from which we launched the transforms in a certain logic, which can also be put inside of a Twitter social content-based social graph machine. And here this may imply, and it is so to a certain degree, that they are the most important people within said network. Yes, I see a suggestion on tracking extremist groups, terror groups, and members. That was something that we did a webinar on, I think, half a year ago with Mr. Miro Dietrich from the CMAS research organization, and it was dedicated to European right-wing extremism in the context of Discord. Maybe we will doing something like that in a more broader context in the future. And thank you for the suggestion with the threat intelligence capabilities as well. And we're also going to give some more credit to the person who has initially built this concept of scripting within Multigo, and run some machines that involve infrastructure objects that are available not even as a part of the social links license, but the default Multigo license. And there are several levels of depth here. We can also see here certain limits of slider output. And on those that work even more deeply, there is the user filter, meaning that the operator is given an option to choose some of the entities from the initial output as objects for further transforms. Infrastructure is just not something that Social Links specializes in. We have some functionality for that, but not as much as the standard Multigo package. So we'll just show this to you. So you know that there's something that you can use. Can we receive the recording of the webinar related to European groups? It's available on our YouTube channel, Jeff, as are all of the webinars, including this one in the near future. So you can watch it there if it's interesting. You're welcome. And thank you for coming. And it can be said that this is directly connected to the several layers of depth within the code of the machine. So what this did was gather subdomains, DNS records, mail exchange servers and name servers. Then from those, it went to IP addresses. The IP addresses were resolved to net blocks. The net blocks were resolved to autonomous system numbers, and autonomous system numbers subsequently resolved to companies. And based on this, we can make some assumptions about the company owning the domain. For example, that they use certain services in their work, as can be seen here. And we can go to the next level of depth to illustrate it. And here we see that we're given a user filter. So we'll just select name server 60 here as the next object for transform running. And there's just one mail server, so we're only left with that choice. Now, maybe in this instance, we'll select just a small number of domains. Let's select those first 4 ones. One of the reasons that we're showing you this is that if you've been listening carefully, then you can likely understand that the same kind of logic of customization and tailoring and depth levels is applicable not just to network infrastructure objects, but human infrastructure objects, which of social links, social media transforms are more focused on. And not just social media, but also dark web activity, of course. Let's select 3 IP addresses and proceed with those. And the machine can be stopped if you think that at this moment you have enough data for in the context of the research that you are doing. I mentioned dark web, so we'll go for an example with that to illustrate the logic one more time. It's quite similar to social media, really. So here, based on the username, we first get the user accounts on forums and marketplaces. And from those, we subsequently extract the related posts if it's a forum and products if it's a marketplace. And from those, well, for instance, from those products, the stated shipment locations. An automated report is created Well, it depends on what you want. So it can be exported to a table in several formats, including CSV, or into a PDF file, although the PDF file will be quite large. If there is an extensive amount of entities, I'm going to export this one briefly to show you how that would look. So it's been generated. And this is an example of what a report would look like with the brief dark web machine-based search that we did. So there were 34 entities, and this is 88 pages, with those ranged by the amount of incoming links and other principals. And we see the properties of the entities in question as well, such as the description of the products, the self-description of the vendors, and so on. So as you can understand, it would make sense when creating such an automated report to really filter the results of the research, filter out and delete all of the data noise, and leave just the most important, the most relevant stuff. So yes, there are some other questions that we see. How can we avail Multigo, and how much? What are the inclusions of the product? The product itself includes these visualization analytics software capabilities, the basic machines, and standard Multigo transforms, mostly on infrastructure. So do we need accounts in all the social media platforms and services that Multigo is querying? No, everything is done on the vendor side. That is the logic of how it works. And can we search for keywords somehow within the results of all contacts? We will demonstrate two things now. One will be the search within an already existing data set. So for example, here we have the output of our Facebook content graph machine. And there are properties which the entities may contain. Well, for example, this text here. If we want to see all of the objects inside the properties of which something like this is present, we go to quick find, we type in the specific value. In this case, it's only present in that comment which I chose, so only this one is highlighted. If what you're asking is a general keyword search, then there's this one, which is a general search entity, but it's quite good for keywords. And let's choose something like maybe DJI FPV drone. We've done a search for Facebook groups, for GitHub repositories, and for Telegram messages. and also YouTube videos, Twitter accounts, and a basic Google query. Now we're going to deepen this, and we could do this with a machine, but I didn't prepare one for this specific use case. That's why I have to do it semi-manually, as you can see. And it's quite chaotic and multivectoral, but those are what the functional capabilities of such a search would look like. The machines used or code can be obtained anywhere. So if you have a Maltego license, then the standard Maltego machines will be available. If you also have a social links license, then those that we have shown today for emails, phones, dark web users, and anything other than the sentiment detection and evaluation, and also the company lookup, those will be available within the standard license once you install the extension. Do we think it's possible to use Multigo and SL in the regular company in the recruitment process in order to see if the candidate is trustful? Yes, among other potential instruments, and it's something that some of our customers do as well. When it comes to building machines for social media, do I need to lay the code sequentially? Also, can I create a machine that will pull multiple social media platforms at the same time? Yes, certainly. We have 10 minutes remaining. I think we can do this now. Yes, Soxoy is in the right here. They do support both sequential and parallel running. We can build one. It will take just a few minutes, I think. Something for basic social media research, multivectoral in terms of platforms. So it's going to be a macro machine. And let it be something that works with Facebook profiles. So for starters, we choose a specific input. Here we've chosen the Facebook profile. We're going to input paths and run getting details, location, last activity date, and also SLISC search, Twitter, search LinkedIn. Compile it, it's good to work. Saved as today's date. No, this is the commercial version of Multigo. C has much less capabilities in place. And let's take, oh yes, maybe a person entity. And maybe we can run it on this guy, which we've used as a sample today already. And that's what it did. So several transforms in a sequence. I don't think it found anything using facial rec. We still have the Instagram account as a URL extracted though. The last activity date and general details such as the stated location. And I suggest an entity to be searched. So if you're really interested in that, then we would gladly schedule a meeting with you to, well, tailor it to your specific needs, and that can include that entity, of course. So great to see that we still have most of the people present here. It seems that there are no more additional questions so far. I hope this was helpful and insightful. Always great to see people at our webinars. As usually, we're going to cover more various, very different, interesting topics. Hopefully with subject matter experts, as we usually try to do. And we'll be very glad to see you all there, as well as on more personalized meetings to see how we can help you and what kind of a solution, in a broad sense of the word, we can offer you in the context of your problems. Thank you, and we wish you a great remainder of the week and a good weekend ahead. Goodbye.